So, Showdown in Little Tokyo. It's a first time watch for me with this film, starring Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee. I'm going to tell you what I thought of it. Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel and welcome to this first time watch review for Showdown in Little Tokyo. So this film here was actually gifted to me by long-time commenter and watcher of the channel, Bal. So again, thank you very much for that. You know, he honestly didn't have to send me it. He did put a note inside basically saying, you've got every film in the world almost, but I don't believe you've got this one. He was right. I haven't got this one, and nor have I seen this one. And for good reason, because I'm not a fan of martial arts. As a genre, it really doesn't do anything to me. So seeing this on the shelf like this, I'll just pass it by, even with Dolph Lundgren in it, who I do love, obviously. He's probably my second favourite Punisher, after Thomas Jane. Anyway, that being said, so Showdown in Little Tokyo, it was sent to me, so again, thank you. And obviously, it was sent to me, so obviously I am going to watch it and I am going to commit my thoughts to screen. Good or bad, I'm going to tell you. So this film here, this came out in 1991 with an 18 rating. And here it has a runtime of 76 minutes. I say here because looking at it, this film had a lot of studio interference, a lot of edits were made, this sort of a thing. So I don't know how this version compares to other versions, whether this is like the ultimate cut of it. I honestly don't know. But I watched what I watched. And this film here stars Dolph Lundgren as Sergeant Chris Kenner. Brandon Lee as Johnny Maruta. You got, I forget the fella's name now. He's the Asian bloke, the Chinese bloke, whatever he is, Japanese. Sorry if I'm getting that all wrong, completely wrong. I sound like a complete racist here. But he's the fella who was in Mortal Kombat as the main bad guy. He's got a very villainy face to him. You can't not notice him. And it's got Tia Carrera as Minako Okaya. Ironically, I've got a Tia Carrera property sat right beside me there on my shelf. Yes, Relic Hunter. I didn't know she was in it, so it's always nice to have a bit of eye candy in Tia Carrera. She was, I don't know if she still is, was an extremely attractive woman. This film here was directed by Mark L. Lester, who wasn't too happy with the studio interference that the film got, and after this he swore that he would have more control over any movies that he made. It was written by Stephen Glatz and Calliope Brattlestreet. That's a real name, believe it or not. I think that's probably, as unbelievable as some of this film is, that's probably the most unbelievable part of it. The basic premise of this film is you've got Dolph Lundgren's copper, Sergeant Chris Kenner, who as a young lad, he grew up in Japan. So he sort of like grew up in their ways. And his father, when he was a young lad, he witnessed him get killed by the fella who's now the main bad guy of this movie, who's come to Los Angeles and set up a drug ring under the guise of a distillery, a brewery. But they're Yakuza. They've got all the tattoos and everything. And he has to break in his new partner, what did I say? Johnny Maruta, played by the late Brandon Lee, and go and close down this drug ring and the Yakuza and all this sort of a thing. So it's sort of that standard fare that you got at that time in the early 90s, that sort of buddy cop partnership of a movie. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's very violent. It's very tongue-in-cheek. What did I think of the film? It's going to sound really bad, right? Because it's not very well made. You know, looking at it now, watching it now, it's corny. It's schlocky. It's nonsense. I mean, from the scene where Dolph Lundgren first appeared, he swung in on a rope. Swung in on a rope like some sort of superhero into the middle of a fighting ring. and then subsequently gets into fights with all these people. It just reeked of nonsense at that point. The film did have a budget of 8 million, and it does sort of show in a sense. The acting is questionable at best. The martial arts are pretty good, but seeing a load of men doing martial arts in their nappies is a bit off-putting, I will say. You know, Tia Carrera, she looks fabulous. There's even some nudity with her character. It's obviously not her. It's obviously a body double in a wig. But it's there. Body double had looked okay, had a decent body on her. There's good chemistry between Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee. They work well off of one another. The main bad guy, menacing enough, certainly is, and his a gang of misfits, or you know, his Yakuza gang. Yeah, you know, and it plays on them sort of tropes of Japanese stuff where, you know, people are committing suicide. You know, one geezer breaks his own neck, only then to pop up later on in the film in scenes in background, things like that. Okay, let's not get away with that. There's a bit where Dolph Lundgren lifts a car. Yeah, he lifts the car up onto his side. I thought I was watching an Arnie film for a moment to get away. Yeah, it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous nonsense. But in that, it's fun. It was a fun film. You know, it was 80 minutes long. It's not an inoffensive runtime for a movie. If anything, it's a tad short. But it was fun. You know, no one there was acting like they were in some big dramatic masterpiece. It looked like they were having fun with what they were doing. And I had fun watching it. You know, it's one of those films that I think I will go on to sort of love to hate, if that makes sense. I've got a sort of love-hate relationship with films, and I know that sounds pretty bad, but there's a lot of films that I know are bad, but I enjoy them. But then when I watch them, I'm sat there and I'm nitpicking at all the bad in it. And I think that this is one of those films. And believe me, that's not a bad thing. Other films that fall into this category are things like Batman and Robin, Sylvester Stallone's Judge Dredd, films that I enjoy and I watch on a semi-regular basis, but at the same time as watching them, I'm looking at them thinking, I cannot believe you just did that. Yeah, so it's got a nice, concise runtime. It's got some nice, silly action scenes in it. It's got some really nonsense dialogue. One thing that just, you know, very sort of homoerotic line came out of Brandon Lee's mouth at one point. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but there we go. But yeah, it was fun. It was a fun movie. I can't really say anything more than that. It's not a masterpiece. It's not a fantastically made movie. It's a product of its time. It's, you know, I mean, the other thing that I just looked at and thought was ridiculous was the minute he dressed up at the end in this sort of garb. And I thought, oh, you look stupid. You truly look stupid. But go and have your fun. And I had my fun with it. What more can a movie do than offer you fun? It's not Shakespeare. Just put it that way. But obviously the one thing I will leave on is saying thank you, Bal, for sending me this. It will stay in the collection. I will watch it again and I will have fun with it again. So thank you very much.